I'm about to do something really exciting, and I'm going to share this process of what I'm about to do with you. My husband does not think that this would be a great video to share, and so I want to prove him wrong. I need to organize my pantry and my apothecary, and this is part of my nesting mode. I am currently about 8 months pregnant, and this just needs to happen. And I'm sharing this for two reasons. One, because I can't be the only person who needs to do this. And I figured I would show you a real life example of the process and how I'm gonna go about doing this, so it's not a big headache and it doesn't feel overwhelming. And two, I wanna share with you guys my lifestyle of homesteading and homeschooling and homemaking. Every day I wanna share a video with you. And the only way that I can do that is if I honestly show you what I am doing today, which is cleaning out my pantry. So let's get into it. But before we do, please make sure to subscribe to my channel if you're interested in this sort of health and homemaking and homesteading content. All right, let's get started. First, a tour. So when you walk into my pantry, at first you think, wow, this is really cool and this is really amazing. But then things start happening, like all this and then this. So this is what we have to organize. The very first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to take everything out. And I mean everything, because I need to wipe down these shelves. I need to clean the floor. And it's only because I'm going to take everything out that I'll be able to put what actually needs to go back in, and I'll describe the rest of the process next. So as I do this, I'm going to put things into piles. There's going to be a pile of things that need to go back into the pantry. There's going to be a pile of things that need to go into storage, and I'm sure there's going to be trash. And I also might make a pile of things that I'm going to decant, which I'll tell you all about here in a minute. Here we go. The hair is officially going up. This is a perfect example of things that I need to decant. And decanting is literally just putting stuff like this into another container, so that way it's a little bit more organized. I've had these hibiscus, what are these things called?
A big bush flower buds.
No, there's a name.
The seeds.
Yeah, but there's a name for the seed. I've had these here. Will you not move that, sweetie? What are they called? There's a name. Calyx. I've had these roselle hibiscus calyxes out. They're basically seed pods in order to dry them out and collect the seeds. And this is a great example of what else I can decant. Same things with these miscellaneous peanuts. Recipes I don't have to decant, but I need to put them in my recipe book. And move this next to my freeze dryer. Look at this tiny little bit of saffron I collected on this paper towel from like 1 or 2 crocuses. That's sad. I could go ahead and make some vanilla extract. They had a bunch of water that we stored and collected from the last hurricane. I have got to come up with a better system for all of my mason jar lids. This is what I've got. I'm going to put this to the side in hopes that maybe today or another day, but at least at some point, I deal with that. If I have any jars in my apothecary that are empty, that's usually my sign that I need to restock. So I think I'm going to put everything that I need to restock into its own pile, so that way I know that I need to either harvest this out of my garden or order some bulk herbs online. Now, this might be the point in which you feel like you're a little defeated, because you have cleaned off the countertops, you've cleaned off the floor down here, and now you're looking at like all of this and all of this to get rid of, but we're going to push through. Yeah, as I'm going through things like this, I'm realizing where I've got like one larger jar of dandelion and one smaller jar, and I'm going to combine these. This is a part of decanting. And even things like this, where I don't have a full jar, but I've got just a little bit I could put into a smaller jar. I'm also finding things that need labels. I'll put those in the decanting pile. And of course, if anything just looks straight up terrible and maybe molding, I'm tossing it. I have two things of fennel here. One is really light and one is really dark. I'm sure the one that's really light is fine, but I'm probably just going to go ahead and compost this really light one and keep the really fresh looking fennel. We have a dozen plus bags of freeze-dried eggs that might as well go with the rest of our just stock for emergency food. This is also a really good time for anything that you have jarred up, like dried goods, to give them a little shake. Any herbs that you've dried and placed into jars, give them a shake. That helps distribute any potential air and allows you to check to see if there is any moisture in there and if you need to add or replace any oxygen absorbers. All right, I'm now at the point where I've cleared off all of these shelves. This heavy stuff that went at the very top is going to go back. And so before I even attack this, I'm going to go ahead and just clean all of these shelves. And that way I can reorganize the jars that need to go back. And that will give me counter space to tackle this. First, I'm going in with just a duster, starting at the very top, and then I'll go back through and wipe down with a wet rag. And I'm finding things like this, which is a huge half-gallon of pine needles dried that I ordered before I moved up here and was surrounded by pine trees. So I'm probably going to take this out, give it to the goats, and then have a nice big jar available. I'm also finding things like this that I use to brew kombucha, and it's been so long since I've made kombucha, and honestly, I just don't know when I'm gonna make it again. So this takes up a lot of space. I'm gonna put this away. And when I say take away, I mean put it in the garage or put it somewhere else outside of my small pantry. And now it's time to start putting stuff back, and this I think is gonna be really fun. The way in which I'm putting things back is in order of from top to bottom what I'm going to use the least to most. So what I'll use the most will be on the bottom. For example, this is some homegrown tobacco. I use this rarely. We would use this rarely. So I'll put this at the very top. All right, this is what I've got so far. That is condensed and cleaned out. It feels really empty, but I am going to decant a bunch of this stuff. I've got a bunch of like loose things like these hibiscus flowers I can put in a quart jar, and I'm gonna decant a bunch to put up here. So this is what I am tackling next. I also know that I'm gonna be using these half-gallon jars for fermenting kefir and for all kinds of different things, tinctures and whatnot. So I am gonna go ahead and place all of my half gallons at the top. All right, I've cleaned out these bottom shelves, but now what I'm doing is I'm taking the top two shelves that have a bunch of miscellaneous stuff in there, and I am organizing it into groups in here, so I don't have to move it and get up and down, into groups of things that I want to put back up, things that I can put in back stock or that I don't want, and then things to put away. All right, I'm down to the very end, you guys. I've got pretty much everything out. And for these top two shelves, what I'm doing is I'm taking everything on the top two shelves and I'm putting them into piles here where I am, so that way I don't have to go up and down and up and down. I'm putting them into piles of bottles that I do want and that I'm gonna keep in here, stuff that I don't want, and then also stuff that can go in like back storage. So I've gotten these shelves completely organized. The counter space looks so much better. And here looks so much better too. I can see everything. Everything's really organized, even my lids, which are at least just in boxes off the floor. I have piles of stuff that need to go downstairs, piles of stuff that need to go into other rooms. This stuff needs to go back in there. The pantry clean out is complete. I'm going to show you guys what it looks like now. It feels absolutely amazing. And I just can't tell you how glad I am that I got through it. Let's take a look. So now, counter's reorganized. I wasn't using the dehydrator. I was using my freeze dryer a lot more. I wasn't using this little tabletop composter. I've got my books over there, so much more accessible. And all of these shelves are wiped down. I ended up putting a bunch of these jars up here because I am about to can a bunch of tomatoes. And so those will get filled up quickly. And I was able to decant a bunch of things that were just in big bags that were over here into jars. So I have that more easily accessible. I do need to label that. The floors are so much better. I love having my baskets here for easy access. I've got grains here that I have to keep. But now look at all this. And I mean, this might not look like much to you, but I know where everything is. And I took out so much stuff. And over here, I've got just some jars that I need to label and put back. And I've got a group of things that I need to either harvest more herbs from, go into my stockpile, see what I have in back stock, and or just order some bulk herbs. So I've got all of that. I hope you enjoyed this video and found a little inspiration and oomph to organize your own pantry. This is such an important place in our home alongside the kitchen that it feels really good to have an organized sense of where everything is and have everything cleaned. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. If you did enjoy it, please make sure to like it and subscribe to my channel for more health and homesteading and homemaking content.